What's happening, everyone? We have basically a Stihl weed eater attached to a rototiller. It's like a Stihl version of a Mantis, but it is a MM56. Sure, the head unit is pretty much exactly the same as anything else, but the problem being is the owner says it doesn't stay running. So I don't know if that means with the trigger down it runs, the trigger down it doesn't run, doesn't even run at all, does it just not idle? I don't know, so let's find out. There's a little bit of fuel. That's pretty much the only thing I checked. Choke. Man, this is awkward. I don't even know where to put my hands so that like those don't kick up if it were to get me. Let's see. Well, that could be it. That wasn't even on start. Let's try this again. Choke? No choke? So it will run on choke, but nothing more. The owner said they bought this used a couple years ago. Ran great the first year. Second year, not so great. It worked, just not that great. And then this is the third year and it's doing this. So we, from the looks of it, carburetor issues, potentially spark arrestor issues, don't really know, but at least take a look at that carburetor right now. Well, hold on there. Over 90% of you, according to YouTube, are not currently subscribed. You're watching this video, but you're currently not subscribed. So I'm going to welcome you to subscribe at the end if this helped you out. I work on a lot of machines, so maybe the machine you're watching is going to be something you own, but who knows? Maybe you own a generator, a pressure washer, a big mower, a chainsaw, a variety of things. The only way to know if I'm going to fix it in the future is by subscribing, and maybe I get to the one that you own and can help you out then too. So I welcome you to subscribe, put a thumbs up if it does help you out. Back to your normal video. I took the screw off. Oh, looks pretty clean so far. Well, that could be a sign of spark arrestor issues. I'm still going to take the carb off and do a thorough cleaning just because, well, just because. And then we'll look at the spark arrestor at the end. But having oil and fuel like that isn't too uncommon, even with a good functional machine. Just the nature of these. There we go. Now I'm going to open up the fuel tank. Doesn't have to come off or anything, just has to be open. The reason for that is you don't want to have pressure built up in the tank, because as soon as you take off the fuel line, which I'm about to do now, it's just going to erupt. And when you take off a fuel line, don't really squeeze too hard. I tried to go on the very top of the line and just kind of push it off. If you squeeze too hard, these are made out of plastic. And, well, plastic is not known for being the most resilient against that type of thing. Just trying to get that throttle cable out. Should be easier. Should be, but isn't. This throttle cable does not want to leave its home. There we go. Yeah, a lot of that's super oily. So we're going to definitely check that spark arrestor. Or at least get it running. If it still isn't running good, we'll definitely have to check it. But, yeah, we have the carb off. Let us go through the process of getting this carburetor cleaned. Here we have the carburetor off. Try to pry this gasket up as cleanly as possible. Don't really want to replace it. Usually a flathead screwdriver will give us some good leverage points and we can get this done. There we go. This side does not seem... Oh, that one... That one was amazing. Let's continue on. Well, to be honest, this is the cover or the gasket in between the air cover and the carb, so if it did rip a little bit, the world will continue spinning. Now that green one, you don't want it to be damaged, and that one came. My apologies, my camera for whatever reason had a problem, but hopefully you got that. We just took the gasket off. Now we're going to be taking the screws off the top. That's what happens when you damage your SD card. You have to buy a new one. And a new one, it's not proving itself yet. More likely than not, it's gonna need a minor cleaning as well as some good diaphragm and whatnot. Here we go. This is usually the part that gets hard, and it's pretty rough. Yeah, we might have found our problem. You can potentially take your machine and give it like 30 primes, and it can soften it a little bit sometimes, but if it's gone, it's gone. If it's just frozen because it hasn't been used for a while, yeah, but I wouldn't get my hopes up if I were you, to be honest. Just gonna take off a little bit of the gasket there. Now, I usually would take these off, but I'm gonna leave them on today. Nah, we're gonna take them off. We're gonna do the right thing to do. Take them off. We're gonna need something that's a little beefy. And they usually just slip right off. Usually. They do put these on there for a reason, so I'm doing this because I need to clean it, but know that I'm not telling you to take this off. This is just what I'm doing. Wow, that one's really on there. How's this one? It's going to be a moment or two. Now those are off. Let's count the turns. This is the high. Yeah. We have half, one and a half. It's pretty normal. Usually it's 1 or 1.5. Now when we take these out, we want to see if there's any differences with them. Same thing. We have not even half. Okay. we'll put it at a half. It's always better to be a little rich than it is lean. Now, do we have a difference between these two? This is the low, this is the high. The low is longer. Perfect. There's no difference, it doesn't matter what side you put them in, but if there is a difference, if you put them in the wrong side, well, you'll have problems. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to put this in a cleaner. If you do not have a cleaner, no problem. Get yourself some compressed air, or if you have an air compressor, that's even better. When you do that, you always want to make sure you're facing everything down. You're holding it as well. Otherwise, the spring is just going to everything. Anyway, get a can of carb spray. You can go through it, clean it out. There is a precaution though. This little area, the center, can be damaged, so try not to get anything in there. But all these passageways, this main jet that I'm taking out right now, yes, all those can be sprayed and then dried off with the air compressor or a can of compressed air. You don't really just want to let it dry, because if there's any residue, you kind of want to get that stuff out. So compressed air evacuates it. Okay, I'm going to put this in the cleaner. I'll be right back. It's out of the cleaner. It's looking pretty good. First things first, I need to put this jet in there. Blew through there, and everything should be good. But if I don't put it in there now, I will forget. So, such a tiny jet. There we go. Okay. Now, I prefer doing this now because it's a lot easier now. And put the spring in there. Spring. Oops. Well, it was in the right place. It's just right there. And get everything else ready. Put the needle like so. Like so. Now, I'm gonna hold it like this. With any luck, I guide the needle in, press down on it. Now you can tell it's not in the right position. If I'm holding down, there we go. I'm still holding down, otherwise that spring is gonna force it to, spring forward. That's pretty much the only purpose of a spring. Until the screw gets put in there and holds it all down. The screw doesn't have to be super tight, but look at that. That's probably the hardest part. Once you do it a couple of times, it gets easier, but the first time you'll be there a while most likely, but it's working. Now, I have a new diaphragm. If I can take it off the old gasket. I'm not going to put a new gasket set in there because these are okay. Potentially. There we go. And yeah, that gasket's fine. The gasket goes on first. If you notice there's a little hole in this one, that hole goes right there. The diaphragm also has a hole in it. That goes on top. Like so. And if you look, there's also a hole here. So we're going to put this on top with the corresponding holes. I should have had this cleaned up, but I didn't. And put a new bulb on there. Hopefully this is the right size. There's only a few, and this one should be the right one. There we go. And we put our screws back in. So we shifted a little bit, but this one went right. So I'm not going to put it in super tight. In fact, not tight at all. I want to do like the opposite corner. Make sure I'm not damaging the diaphragm, because if it wasn't lined up right, you can do that. Okay, once you have two of the opposite corners in, you could put a little snug. The other two should go in just fine. Here we go. This is all the hard part. The other part's super easy, and we just have to install it. And that's the end of it. Hopefully. One can hope. There we go. Like I said, snug but not tight. Not going to worry about this. This is clean. There we go. Only has one screw. Super easy. And now we can put in our needles. So the long one was the low. And low is always the one that's facing the intake. If you don't remember where that is, it should have H and L. This one does. This is L. If yours doesn't, then just look and see what end faces the intake, and that's your low. Unless you only have one, then you just have one, and that, I hope, is easy enough. So that's a half. Let's do 3/4. It's probably going to be too much, but we're fine. This one, though, we are going to leave a 1.5. This machine has a standard Stihl start switch where it kind of puts a little throttle on it. So when it starts, it's going to be using the high anyway. That's half. That's 1.5, and a little kiss extra. Boom, done. Okay, I'm just going to put this back on. I'm going to look at the quality of fuel before I do so. This is a brand new clean carb. I don't want the fuel to be making things worse. I'm going to take a look at it real quick. Just as I suspected, the fuel is a little bit on the geriatric end, so we're putting new fuel in there. What else? Oh, there we go. Do that first. Okay. Oh, come on. Why are you being like this? There we go. Oh, there's a piece of fuzz right there. That's not going to help her. This is the worst. There we go. guess it's not the worst system around, but it's definitely not the easiest. One of the fuel lines is kind of caught in here. There we go. But unfortunately, our throttle is not where it should be. There we go. I know you can see a lot, but that's what it's supposed to look like. The throttle goes in there, rolls around. Looks like the firemen are out doing something today. It moves freely. So we can now continue on with our fuel line insertion. There we go. There we are. A day like this, it's a pretty warm one out there, so I can imagine them having a bit of a time on their hands. Oh, I forgot the gasket. Well, if you don't need to see me do this again, I'll just go ahead and do this off camera. Usually, this whole thing just comes right off, but for whatever reason today, it's being super difficult. I'm going to see how difficult it is just to take off the whole side cover. That's why I always get these extended bits for reasons like this. Well, we are at least far enough in where we can get this off. I know, forgive me for what I'm about to do. But we got the goods. Actually looks pretty clean. I'm still going to clean it up a little bit just because it's already out. Just use some propane, MAP gas, carb cleaner, a toothbrush, whatever you want to do. Just get it clean. Then don't damage it, of course. And now that it's clean and a little hot, I'll put it right back in. German standard of Guten tight. I'll just have to fiddle with this. I'm gonna fiddle with that and get it put back, and we'll put some fuel in it and see what happens. It's back together. So I primed it, put good fuel in there. It's non-ethanol with the Echo Red Armor, and yeah, I say we turn it back to choke. For a second there, I thought it was hung up. That would be unfortunate. See what happens. A little rich. Pretty much exactly what we thought might happen happened. It is a little rich, so maybe that less than a half a turn is appropriate. How do you know that? Blue smoke coming out of it consistently. So we're going to tighten the screw that's closest to the intake. Try this again. definitely a running wrench. So let's do that again. Let's put this to start and see what happens. Could be running a little lean now. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend a few minutes going through tuning this machine, seeing what we can get it at, and I'll take it from there. I have a video on how to tune a 2-cycle. If you want to know the specifics on how to do so, I'm going to do exactly the same thing as I outlined in that video. After letting it warm up a bit, using it a bit, it was still in and out of tune, and then it got warm. I tuned it to the final tune. Now the very final tune is, as soon as I'm done, I'm going to take it to like some dirt and see if it has enough power. Definitely saw something drip. What are we dripping from? Don't know. I'll have to look into that. Let's see if it starts though. It could be the excess oil that was in there. There was quite a bit. Or it could be excess fuel. So, as you can tell, like I said, I need to make my final adjustment from the tuning of the carb in the dirt. I need to figure out what's dripping. I want to make sure it's not the carb that's leaking somewhere. Maybe a fuel line. I don't know. It could just be the oil and fuel that was in there before. But that's a different point. I don't see it dripping right now. We are done. Hopefully this helped you out. If you have one of these machines, it's basically the same as taking apart any other Stihl that has this type of power unit. But I'll leave you at that. Follow me on Small Engine 101 on Instagram. Definitely subscribe. Put a thumbs up if it helped you out. If you do like what you see, leave a comment. Tell me how it helped you, or if you enjoyed watching it, whatever it is. And I'll be sure to reply. If you want to join, one of the perks of membership is I do work with you one-on-one with repairs, so consider doing that. But other than that, I'll leave you at that. Have a good night.